like about science is that I don't properly understand it. Almost all of it. Pick a thing at random, flick through the big book of science, point at a thing at random, and I probably don't understand that. Most of all, I understand the logic, and I think that's a really important thing, actually. That this is where most arguments about science versus anti-science come to in the end. It's not really about the specifics of whatever field you happen to be talking about. If you're defending the Large Hadron Collider, or if you're defending, you know, the reasons for going to the moon, or anything, actually, you know, scientific principle remains the same all the way through it, and it's about logic, it's about peer review, and it's about certain identifiable and provable laws, right? And that's where you get into arguments with people who talk about homeopathy and you know, various woo subjects, because actually in the end it's about whether or not you can apply the logic, and whether the logic has been rigorously applied to what you're talking about. So that's the thing that I fundamentally understand about science. Equations, all of the tough stuff, the stuff that makes you go that's beyond me. I've really tried to get my head around it as a sort of favour to my, well, not as a favour, as something that I owe my childhood self. You know when they said they've glimpsed the Higgs boson, they've glimpsed the evidence that there might be a Higgs boson. I think most people's understanding of it, possibly even involved in that project, is kind of like that. I think understanding of science for me is relatively quantum, in that once I think I can understand it, and I can look at it and it's quantifiable, the minute I look at it, it's whizzed out of my head. And that might be to do with my own brain decay, which is what I'm talking about on stage this evening, or it might be because that's just the nature of that. So many times in my life, I've read a book where you know, because I've done stand-up shows about science and all of those things. In 2005, I did a thing about the periodic table and at Edinburgh and so on. And I know it sounds boring, but it was okay. So there were jokes, and but you know, and as a layperson, as a, you know, an arts graduate, I would read these books and I'd be going, I get this. What? Hang on. And then I go back and I go, yeah, no, I do. No, I this must be right. Concentrate on this, but no. Yeah, gravity. Yes, there's one. Can we undiscover, uninvent gravity? I'm kind of fancy being a bit floaty. Now, I think it's a really odd question, because actually, it implies a couple of things. One is that any given scientific discovery is like that nerve gas is a scientific discovery. That's not the scientific discovery. That's an application of a scientific discovery, which is actually itself you know, a chemical and physical discovery about the way that certain things react with other things. Essentially, that's as far as I can explain it to you. That's basically what it is, and how it's applied is completely different. Almost certainly the funniest thing about science is the smell of sulphur, because it smells a bit like farts. So, and I know that we like to think that everything is much more sophisticated than that, and that science and in fact humour are more sophisticated than farts, but they're not. They're not. Nothing is actually funnier. It turns out that toilet humour is pretty universal, and when you stop being a bit sniffy about it, it turns out to be just hilarious. So I'm pretty sure that, you know, talking about fundamentals, right? Going right down. If you strip everything right down, if you're looking for the quantum of funny in science, I guess it's probably the smell of sulphur.